Hi, and welcome to this month's Kickstarter roundup from Rule of Carnage, bringing together all the best that Kickstarter has for the tabletop miniatures gamer. We've got some really good campaigns this month. Got a game campaign, some physical model rewards, and the usual set of STLs. So we're going to launch straight in with that game campaign, and it is Flames of Orion by Stephen Hupfer. So this is a skirmish miniatures game of mech combat, and it's come out from one of the guys, I believe, on the Hive Scum podcast. So these guys with a lot of experience running games at conventions, running games for the general public, playtesting, sort of going through games repeatedly. So they do have a good idea of, you know, what a skirmish game should be, what it should have in it. This is a minis agnostic skirmish game, as you know, many indie games are, but obviously on Kickstarter there are tons of campaigns for STL files and such like for mechs, and the thing about mechs is they're fairly easy to sort of kit bash together. It's a fast moving mech game, based as they often are sort of around having your mechs overheating as they're fighting and managing resources. So, you know, that's always a really fun, interesting, sort of fast but crunchy way of playing a game, because you've got like a bit of a resource to sort of to manage with your combat, what you can achieve in a round. Obviously coming from the sort of the Hive Scum guys, this has got a sort of real Zine feel to it. It's very sort of indie, very punk. If you're in the market for a fast moving mech skirmish game, and I know a lot of people watching the channel are, I know like in the Discord there's loads of people interested in mech based games, I think this is a really cool, you know, fast moving version of that game when you don't have the time for something sort of overly slow and super crunchy, but you still want to get your mechs out and have a little bit of that sort of resource management. I think this is a great option, well worth checking out, looking into, giving it some support, giving it back. Okay, so moving on from games, we've got a couple of accessories campaigns this month. First up is Maxton Drybrush for miniature painting by Sleepwalk Air. So obviously dry brushing is a quick technique to get a good look and a good highlight on your models. A lot of us just use an old leftover brush, something that sort of lost its consistency to its bristles, or a larger brush that's been cut down. But it really can help to have a brush specifically designed for dry brushing, because dry brushing is sort of such a quick way of getting nice highlight effects onto a mini. Having a specific dry brush for that can really speed up that effect, get it looking a lot better, getting a lot more effective. So this is a campaign specifically for a set of dry brushes. Well worth checking out. If you do, just like I say, use an old brush, something that isn't sort of doing its job with any like level of accuracy anymore, this is a great opportunity, I think, to step things up with a simple tool that's going to really help your painting. So well worth checking this one up. It's an affordable campaign and a handy set of brushes to have. Next and last up for accessories campaign, we've got The Art of Volumes 13 to 15 by Dave Taylor. So the Art of books come out fairly regularly on Kickstarter. We feature them, I think, almost every time they do roll up. What they are a set of books featuring the artwork, the painting of specific professional miniatures painters. Not just sort of showcasing the images, which is super cool and, you know, really sexy and inspiring, well worth checking out, but also giving some details on some specific techniques that those painters use. So I think that these are books with something to aspire to, something to sort of aim at, a place where you could possibly try and push some of your painting to, and hopefully give you some techniques to sort of raise yourself, maybe not to that level, but to the next step, the next level of your painting. So if you are looking to step up, you're trying to use some new, unusual, interesting techniques, these are great books to pick up. As I say in the title of the campaign, they're on to volume 13 to 15. They've got multiple volumes. They've fulfilled repeatedly. They keep getting people come back. The campaigns do really well. So this is a really solid campaign, a solid guarantee, I think, of fulfillment, and a really high quality, high-end art book of beautifully painted miniatures and some techniques and inspiration to step your own painting game up. Okay, that's it for accessories campaign. Got some physical model reward campaigns. First up of those is Sci-Fi and Steampunk Dwarves by Skibor Monstrous Miniatures. For some reason, this month on Kickstarter, there are a handful of physical model reward campaigns for Dwarves. This is the one that I've picked out just because it has sort of really cool sculpts, but I think the best range and breadth of not just settings, but just like units worth of dwarves. So these are sci-fi steampunky dwarves, rather than being like sort of two separate sets. These are guys who could fit into a sort of 40k sci-fi setting, but they could equally be at home on something a bit more indie and a bit more steampunk and a bit more weird. I think certainly if you're into indie sort of squad-sized, warband-sized gaming, you want some really interesting, unique-looking dwarves that are going to fit into a decent range of settings, a decent range of worlds. This is well worth checking out. Really cool sculpts, really lovely look to them, really good feel to them. Yeah, worth looking them over. This again is a repeat creator, a reliable creator, so I think a solid recommendation on this one. Next and last up for our physical model rewards, we've got Fall of Castograd, 3D printable Grimdark Terrain and Minis by War Scenery. So this is an interesting one. This is a repeat creator who I've been following and featuring on the channel for a while now, and they've really built up their line. So as the title of the campaign says, it's got 3D printable stuff, but they're actually doing physical rewards as well. This creator always does a lovely line of not just miniatures but terrain. There's a whole world that's actually been built up through these campaigns as they've been going along, and it's really great. I think really inspiring to see they're now offering physical packs of minis, physical packs of units, you know, physical options to pick up, as well as the 3D printing. So if you are into sci-fi, independent gaming, miniatures agnostic gaming, and you're looking for something that's going to fill out a larger force, but with some coherence and unity to them, this is a great campaign to check out. These are, you know, fully sort of separate worlds of their own, but there's plenty of minis here to fill out a decent sized mass battle force, and with a lot of the recognizable tropes that will fit into a lot of gaming worlds. I think these guys could be used to proxy very happily in 40k. I think that they could work really nicely in a range of independent games. Yeah, if you want a large chunk of minis, if you want the terrain to fill out a table, if you are looking for 3D printable or physical rewards, I think this is a great campaign to check out. Strongly recommend giving this one a look over. Lots of options. Yeah, a repeat creator who's really been growing on Kickstarter. I think that's great to see. Okay, moving on from our physical rewards onto our STL files. First up for our STLs this month is Street Stands Terrain set in STL by Berengina Games. If you follow the channel, you follow the roundups, you know that I'm a big advocate for contemporary or sort of contemporary fitting terrain and campaigns. This is one of a couple of campaigns this month I think are really interesting, because this is sort of street scatter terrain in these STLs. This specific one has got essentially a sort of a pagoda, a bench set, and a sort of shop kiosk. So these are scatter terrain that would fit into a lot of contemporary city settings. Oh, and a little low loader truck, which for some reason I find absolutely endearing. These are little bits that could scatter around to any sort of contemporary or near contemporary setting to give a little bit of life to a city or a town. These, I think, are framed in the campaign as being for sort of zombie post-apocalyptic setting, but they could work in so many things. Any sort of contemporary setting, whether it's, sure, near post-apocalyptic, like obviously zombies is a major part of that setting, but sort of COIN settings, sort of counterinsurgency, they could be sort of fully realistic modern sort of setting combats. What's nice about them is you've got the little kiosk, which is sort of suitable for a town or city setting, and then with the park bench and the little pagoda job, you could sort of set up a town park and have a bit of terrain in there, easily fill out a contemporary setting with some usually available bushes, trees, stuff like that, and have sort of a little skirmish in a town park setting. I think there's a lot you can do with a very small number of STLs here, so I think well worth checking out and giving it a look over. Next up for STL files, we've got Small Urban Cleaning Vehicles STLs for 3D Printing by Crimson Studio. So Crimson Studio are another repeat creator, featured a few times on the channel, and again this is the other campaign of sort of contemporary city style pieces, and again I find these bits absolutely just sort of delightfully endearing. So there's a little sort of street sweeper machine, a hot dog stand, and a bottle or sort of general recycling collection vehicle, and a little motorbike. So these are vehicles that will work in any sort of urban setting and give a real bit of life and sort of specific contemporary setting, contemporary timing. Maybe, you know, in a sort of more post-apocalyptic setting these would be sort of a bit wrecked and ruined, but I love the idea of a modern contemporary setting that will have these vehicles just there around, existing within the space. It's the sort of thing that really gives a tabletop sort of verisimilitude, you know, a real feeling like it's lived in space. So again, a really small campaign with just a handful of minis, but with a real sort of flavour and taste and place to them. Well worth checking out and giving this a look over if you have any interest in a sort of contemporary setting style tabletop for your gaming. Well worth giving it a look over. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got Grimdark Terrain by Warscream Forge. So, as I've said a few times, I think Trench Crusade is a bit of a £800 gorilla in the room at the moment in relation to Kickstarter campaigns, and we're really seeing the Trench Crusade suitable, compatible terrain popping up and miniatures. This one very much slots into that whole idea. They've specifically got trenches, sort of modular trenches in the campaign, and modular Grimdark Trench Crusade trenches. Obviously, being Grimdark, these will all work perfectly for 40k, something like that kind of setting, but they are a little bit more amped up, a little bit grimmer on the Grimdark to really fit in with that Trench Crusade world of darkness and unpleasantness and nastiness. So if you're looking for a set of terrain, specifically I think if you're looking to build a sort of trench filled tabletop and you want something, you know, properly grimdark and sort of horrible and nasty and vicious, I think this is a great campaign. Obviously a lot of people are getting set up for when Trench Crusade sort of really gets rolling, gets out there, and I think this is a great opportunity to get a jump on having a tabletop ready and set to play when it finally lands. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got Doomed Battalions Wraith Pilgrims by Crab Miniatures. So again, in relation to the fact that Trench Crusade is really sort of hitting big in the Kickstarter consciousness, this is a campaign for a set of minis that will work very nicely for Trench Crusade. So I've put these into the STL file section. There are physical rewards available in the campaign, so I should say that up front. These are a set of very Trench Crusade feeling sort of minis. You've got flamers, flagellants, a good few units, enough to build out I think a sort of decent sized warband, probably enough that you'll have whatever you need to play an actual Trench Crusade game. Obviously these guys will work very happily for a range of grimdark indie setting games. It's not just Trench Crusade that exists in this sort of world. Really lovely looking minis, really cool sculpts. If you are in the market for that sort of grimdark feeling, if you are trying to get yourself set up and ready for Trench Crusade, again, this is a great campaign to stop by, pick up some sort of really cool, weird looking sort of dark fanatics for fighting out a game in a grimdark world. Okay, next up for our STL files, we've got SteamPunk House / City by NPC. This, I think, probably just personally might be my favourite campaign of the month. So it's a set of 3 houses, so it's a terrain campaign with a sort of a steampunk setting. And the one that really catches my eye, and I'm sure it's the one that will jump out to a lot of people, is there's a sort of mechanized building on tracks, something that physically moves around, and it really shouts a sort of Howl's Moving Castle, but a little bit more modern, a little bit more sort of steampunk and urban rather than magical. And I think it's absolutely delightful. As soon as I saw it in the campaign, I was thinking, okay, I'd love to be able to work out a game, a setting, something this will work for. And this, I think, is exactly what good terrain does. It inspires, it suggests you a setting, a world. It makes you want to figure out what you can play in it. So yeah, I strongly recommend swinging by this campaign. Just looking at the pieces, I think, back it. I think this is such an unusual, interesting and fun set of terrain. It's something you're not going to see again. This doesn't come up regularly. This isn't the sort of usual set of buildings and pieces. I would strongly recommend backing it right now. I don't yet know what I would do with that terrain, but that is exactly what I think is exciting about a campaign like this. Yeah, definitely go by, look at the campaign, be inspired by the pieces, and I strongly recommend backing this one. Really cool stuff, and not the sort of thing that comes up very regularly. Okay, next up for STL files, we've got Daughters of Redmoon Compatible STL Army by Level 50 Miniatures. So this is a, I think, really interesting campaign. First of all, plenty of sculpts here for a good-sized mass battle army. So I think there's about sort of 60 miniatures, 60 odd sculpts in there. I think it would happily fill out for something like Age of Sigmar, that sort of level of larger skirmish gaming. The miniatures themselves are female minis with a sort of Amazonian. I think there's a strong sort of proxy for Dark Elf feeling to them. So those sorts of minis, sort of cruel female monsters and creatures, really great sculpts, very characterful, lots of units, lots of unit types that split out into the usual sort of sections within an army that you might see. So this is a great campaign to pick up a set of minis for proxying out, almost any sort of army that has a bit of a faster, more elite, slightly more maybe fragile feel to it. Like I say, Dark Elves are the sort of archetype that I think this would slot into absolutely perfectly. But that sort of general hit and run, fast moving, hard hitting, glass cannon-y kind of an army has versions in most settings and most worlds. So yeah, if you're looking for a really cool set of sculpts, an unusual set of sculpts that work absolutely perfectly to a whole bunch of settings, I think this is a great one to swing by and pick up enough minis to fill out a good sized force all in one go. Yeah, definitely give this one a check out. Okay, last up for STL file campaigns this month, we've got Mad Carz 2.0, The Road of Pain by Polywizard. So there are a couple of post-apocalyptic vehicle campaigns up on Kickstarter this month. This is one that I chose to focus on because it has just a little bit more of that ramshackle feel to the vehicles. And because of that, I think it makes them a bit more open to the settings they can work in. These guys could be sort of a post-apocalyptic Mad Max setting. I could happily see these guys with like orcs hanging off them. I could even see them sort of alternative history. Some of the vehicles feel like they could drop right into a sort of, weird 50s sort of setting. Again, I think these are a set of STL pieces that are quite inspiring, that make you try to figure out what the world is they come from. Obviously, you can drop them straight into all sorts of games. I think if you've been looking at the Space Skits campaign and you're thinking about the vehicle rules that are in that, and you're looking at something that could sort of work as an orky vehicle, I think they'd be great for that. If you're looking at playing something sort of post-apocalyptic racing, something Gaslands adjacent, I think this could print out just fine to work in that. So for something that's quite niche, I think these have a lot of range and a lot of settings they can work for. Well worth checking out if you're in the market for some ramshackle, possibly post-apocalyptic, possibly sci-fi vehicles you want to sort of kit bash that have a good bit of character and a good bit of feel to them. Yeah, well worth giving it a look over. Okay, that's it for this month. A nice range of campaigns there. I think some really interesting pieces. The Kickstarter has really sort of hit its stride now, so we're going to get lots of really cool campaigns, I think, for the next few months. And yeah, there's plenty here this month, and as usual, plenty that I couldn't include in the roundup. So if there is something here that hasn't necessarily caught your eye, do swing by Kickstarter, give it a scan through. There's loads of cool stuff out there at the moment. As usual, this Saturday there'll be a game design chat with myself and Mike Hutchinson, and I'll be back with another Kickstarter roundup next month. Please do swing down to the comment section. Let me know if you back any of these campaigns, what you back. If there's something you're looking forward to coming up on Kickstarter, let me know what you're thinking about, what's catching your eye. Swing by the Discord and tell us if you backed something, what you backed. But for now, from this roundup, it's going to be a thank you and goodbye. So thank you and goodbye. Bye-bye.